Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to r/Today I Effed Up, where people share the ridiculously stupid things that they've done in their life. And if you've never seen this subreddit before, you'll definitely want to stick around for this first post by user/Today I Effed Up Throwaway TSA4. So, I work for the TSA, and have for a few years now. It's a good job overall, I'm underpaid, but the benefits are nice, and I get overtime when I want it. A little over a year ago, during the week leading up to Christmas, we had some really bad weather that delayed all the flights. I volunteered to stay late so that my co-workers could go home to their families. Most of the work was done anyway, so it was mostly just standing around waiting for the odd latecomer. I was working the AIT, the space tube thingy, when 3 passengers came up together. A middle-aged man, a middle-aged woman, and a teenage boy. I figure it's a family traveling together for the holidays and go about my work. Mum goes through, all is fine. Dad goes through, all is fine. Kid comes up, I get a good look at him. Hoodie, sweatpants, shortish hair, smooth face. I figure he's about 13, maybe 14. I hit the button, direct him to wait with me for a moment, and then gesture to the screen, which lit up on his chest area. I tell him that I have to pat that area down. He's a little nervous. I figure that because he's so young, this is probably his first time getting a pat down. But he says okay, and I start the pat down. I do the left side of the chest and feel some moob, which catches me off guard because he didn't look chubby at all. I move to the right side of the chest, read what's on the hoodie, and it all clicks at once. The hoodie has the name of the local college on it. This is an adult, not a child. He is not wearing sweatpants. She is wearing yoga pants. She doesn't even know the couple that just came through. I look at her face, which is bright red. My hand is still on her chest, and I pull it back like I just got bit by a snake. I immediately call for my supervisor, who comes over and asks what's wrong, and I explain the situation to her. My supervisor covers her mouth, and at first I thought she was absolutely mortified. But then I realized she's trying not to laugh. She takes a minute to pull herself together, tells me to go take a break, and finishes screening the passenger herself. Once that was done, I apologize to the passenger. She tells me it's fine, that it wasn't the first time she was mistaken for a boy, and she probably should have said something before I started touching her. I leave her alone and go talk to my supervisor to figure out exactly how fired I am. She tells me to calm down, that it was just an honest mistake, and that she has my back if the passenger files an official complaint. But that probably won't happen, and I shouldn't be worried. That reassured me a little, but I still groped a woman and ruined Christmas, so I feel like an absolute monster. I swallow my shame and finish my shift. Then I go into the airport proper to find some food, because I just finished a 12-hour shift and there's no way I have the energy to cook dinner. I saw my hapless victim sitting at her gate, waiting for her flight. I went up to her to apologize again, and saw that the flight had been delayed until morning. It was about 11 at night. I apologize again, she says it's fine, and I ask her if she's planning to stay the whole night. She says she has to, all the hotels in the area are booked. I tell her that I'm getting some dinner and offer to get her some food as well. After all, I already got to second base. I think it's only fair that I buy her dinner. She agrees, and we go to one of the restaurants that's open late, get some food, and start eating. She said she gets mistaken for a boy a lot, and it's not a big deal. I told her about how I had long hair and no beard in college, and at the gym, people would frequently walk into the men's bathroom, see me, and do a double take to make sure they didn't walk into the ladies' room. She laughed, and we ended up talking for a few hours before I finally told her that I had to go home, and apologized again for the accidental groping. She said that all is forgiven, if I promise to take her on a real date when she gets back. I agreed, she gave me her phone number, and I went home and immediately started texting her. We kept talking until her flight finally left, and when she got back, I picked her up at the airport. And a few days later, took her on that date that I promised her. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. She has long hair now. Redditors all over the world, take note. This is how you set up a date. But to be honest, probably the only thing better than this story is the comments down below. I won't go into any of them, but you can check them out by hitting the link to this story in the description down below. And here's our next post by user/Twister300. This is like out of a damn cartoon. A couple of days ago, the cows in my village were going absolutely bonkers. Me not being able to sleep and having an exam in the morning had the billion-dollar idea to take my most soundproof earplugs and go to sleep. I fell asleep in like 5 minutes. I also like to set my ringtone to a very quiet bird noise so I don't wake up scared to death and stressed. Of course, how I should have foreseen, I didn't hear my alarm and overslept by 3 hours. When I woke up, my exam had been over an hour. Now this isn't that big of a deal. I just have to get a doctor's note and I can retake it. So off to the doctor's office I go, trying to fix this mess. I had to come up with a reason why I couldn't go to my exam today. I told the doctor I had massive ear pain, a headache, and some nausea. Doctor checked me and I ended up having an infected wisdom tooth. I just didn't notice it somehow. I had some pain here and there, but it felt like it was coming out of my temporomandibular joint, which I have had problems with before. Anyway, at least I have my doctor's note now. First problem fixed. I chose to get said wisdom tooth pulled because it was crooked anyway, and the infection would probably reoccur. Mum drives me to the dental surgeon, I got drugged up real good, tooth pulled, everything went fine. Got in the car with Mum, told her about every time I had done drugs, and about all the same gender-passionate hugging I've had. She didn't know about this. Now I'm in a whole lot of pain. My mum won't look me in the eyes anymore, and I can't sleep because the cows are going insane again. Oh lord, I think OP just lived through any student's nightmare. Imagine waking up late for an exam. That would just be so awful. And here's our next F-up, presented by user/JazzandBoats. Oh boy, this is a big F-up. I've been working on a cruise ship for the past 5 months. When you live with, work with, eat with, and do everything else with the same people every day for months at a time, you tend to get pretty close to them. I was a bass player in a cruise ship band and quickly made friends with the drummer from Brazil. This was my first time working on a cruise ship, and this has been a goal of mine since I was just a wee lad. 10 days from the end of my contract, me and my drummer friend decided to go into port and have ourselves a memorable day. Too many beers later, it was time to get back on the ship. We, being crew, have a sharp deadline for getting back to the ship. The problem was, we, in our drunken stupor, got a little too far from the ship. My friend and I made it back to the port with about 5 minutes to spare, but that wasn't enough time to make it through customs and back to the ship. Of the two of us, I had more to drink. Therefore, I was the one who had the genius idea to hop the fence and make a dash for the ship. Well, the customs officials had a different view on how good an idea that was. The two of us hopped the fence and immediately got busted. The ensuing police debacle not only got us in trouble, but held up the entire cruise ship. The captain came down on shore and scolded us before firing us on the spot. When you're fired off a cruise ship, you're fired. There and then. They packed our bags for us and threw them on the shore as the ship left port. Fortunately, I'm an American citizen, so the consequences for me were to buy my own flight home. But my best friend was handcuffed and escorted to the airport, where he was sent home and told never to return. 10 days left, and I effed it up. Wow, that really sucks, man, but I've got just one question left. What happens if you get fired halfway through the cruise? Do they just tip you overboard? And here's our next post by user/mushroomcloudedmind. Yesterday, my roommate's family arrived at our apartment for an end-of-year lunch. I only found this out after opening the door and seeing my roommate's family standing in front of me for the very first time since I moved in. My roommate swore that he informed me about the family gathering, but I couldn't recall that conversation ever happening. Regardless of what actually happened, the presence of his family would not have been an issue if it wasn't for the fact that I ingested magic mushrooms moments before the family's untimely arrival. Fast forward to lunchtime. I was sitting at the table with my roommate, his parents, younger brother, and 2 older sisters, and a brother-in-law. All of them had giant-sized heads on normal-sized bodies. It was like having lunch with a family of bobbleheads. At that point, there was no turning back. The shrooms had kicked in, everything around me was pulsating, I didn't know whether to be entertained or terrified. However, in spite of my reality steadily declining, I was able to stay relatively composed. Up until the moment the dad unexpectedly turned to me while chewing a chicken wing. His massive head was suddenly right in my face. I recoiled and yelled at him to back off. The dad stared at me in disbelief. Regrettably, my outburst didn't end there. I stood up and laughed hysterically before accusing my roommate of not telling me his bobblehead family was visiting because he knew I would freak out. At that moment, everyone at the table turned to my roommate, who simply shrugged and said, with a mouthful of food, "Sure, why not?" I spent the rest of the afternoon locked in my room, hoping there was nothing in the food that would somehow supersize my head or something. By the time the shrooms wore off, my roommate's family had gone home. According to him, they're planning to visit more often in the new year, just to make sure he's still safe. From me. Look, OP, it was an honest mistake, and good thing you locked yourself in your room. That was probably the safest option. But with that said, that is it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for Reddit videos every second day. But with that said, that is it from me. I hope you all enjoyed, and all I want to do is see you all here next time. See you later, guys.